So thank you for joining us. Really do appreciate it. My name is Tom. I am the Director of Graduate Admissions. So most of you probably got an email from me at some point. Really do appreciate everyone joining us. I know you all probably have a lot going on right now. So I appreciate you guys taking time out of your busy days to join us here for this. But before we go any further, Dr. Andriacci and Dr. Hiley, would you mind introducing yourselves and just telling us a little bit about yourself and your path to Bloomsburg?
Yeah. Luke, do you want me to go first?
Yeah, you go first.
Okay, I'm going to just shut my office door.
He's right over there.
Dr. Hiley and I were going to sit next to each other here to do this, but we're not. As many of you may or may not know, my name is Dr. Andriacci. Hello, good evening. I've been at Bloomsburg. When did I come here? I came here in August of 2003. It's a long time ago. I did my undergraduate at a state school on the other side of the state. I actually did my master's degree.
I was just going to ask you.
University. I knew was when I was in my master's degree that this is what I wanted to do for a profession in terms of academia. And I think the rest is history. I knew probably about halfway through my first year that this is what I wanted to do. I had a great, fantastic master's mentor who, casually suggested that I get involved into doing some research. And I was fortunate enough to help out and present some data. And I finished up my degree at the University of Pittsburgh, and I've been here since.
And Dr. Andriacci, what are your research interests? Like, what's your area of specialty?
So as some of you know or don't know, I've been doing some stuff with body composition, doing testing a couple of body composition analyzers. I'm a trained pediatric exercise physiologist, so I did all my doctoral studies and training in pediatrics, and I did a number of pediatric projects here. Obviously, we traditionally want to gravitate to the sample that we have, and that's older adults. But as having a family myself, I have a couple of kids that meet the age, and actually this summer we're going to start to reinvigorate a couple of pediatric-based projects to answer some questions in kids.
Awesome. So, great. Well, thank you, Dr. Andriacci. Hey, it's always nice to hear from a Bloomsburg graduate, right?
Yeah, how about it?
And Dr. Hiley, would you mind introducing yourself here?
Yes, be happy to. Another Bloomsburg grad. I came here in fall of 2002, but that was as a student. Dr. Andriacci came in, when I was like finishing up my freshman year, going into my sophomore year, and eventually I ended up one of his academic advisees. And I ended up sticking around here to finish my master's degree. I was thinking at that time that maybe I would go into clinical exercise physiology, cardiac rehabilitation, those sorts of things. But those particular pediatric projects that Dr. Andriacci came out of the University of Pittsburgh all revved up and ready to go, I got involved with some of them and really got itch to do more research, and followed in his footsteps and went off to the University of Pittsburgh myself after finishing the master's here. And similarly did a lot of work with kids out there. I worked at Children's Hospital Pittsburgh. We did research in pediatric pulmonology, kids with cystic fibrosis, and how year-long exercise programs helped with their disease outcomes. But also did a lot of neat stuff on perceptions during exercise, emotion and mood during exercise, and how those things can be measured, and how important those things are to exercise adherence over time. So that's where my research has stayed with over the years.
And it's a great cross-section of some of the things that you can do in this field, which is, again, a huge variety. So that's great. And I appreciate you guys telling us a little bit about yourselves. And by the way, Dr. Hiley and Dr. Andriacci are going to be the professors teaching your classes, right? So, we always try to make the connection here between prospective students and current faculty. So we have a great event planned for you all tonight. We have a presentation that should last around 30 minutes. Dr. Andriacci and Dr. Hiley are happy to take questions throughout the course, though. So if you've got something like, oh, I want to know more about that, just if you could type it into the Q&A. And I can relay the question to them, but we're happy to do a deep dive into anything else you want to know more about. It's not often we have this much brain power in one Zoom room with Dr. Andriacci and Dr. Hiley. So this is a good time to have all your questions answered. But without further ado here, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and Dr. Andriacci and Dr. Hiley are going to kick off their presentation.
This is great. This is great. This is awesome. So, so for many of you, whether you're, I've chatted with you or Dr. Hiley's chatted with you, a number of you are sitting out there. Maybe you're just here for because you have nothing else to do on an evening. But this is going to be a nice little turnaround of where your master's degree can take you. Because for some students who might be interested in cardiovascular rehabilitation or exercise testing, that you need, whether you don't know this or you do, but you need to have a master's to walk into the hospital setting. That's just where the field is right now. For those of you that are, I'm thinking strength and conditioning, I'm thinking of diversifying my experience above and beyond where my traditional baccalaureate may take me. This is where the master's degree may lead you to a different realm. Not saying you have to go into academia as I did and Dr. Hiley, but certainly there are a whole host of other kinds of things, and we'll get to those throughout this presentation. Now, Dr. Hiley, if you want to just chat, you can just yell it, but we could just sit next to each other. It's like between two ferns, I guess.
Oh yeah, I know, that's a good show. I like that show.
It's a great show. But so that would be the why here. As Mr. Kresh said, if you guys have questions, you can just throw them into the little chat box or the Q&A box or whatever. But I think that's the why. Dr. Hiley, anything else to add to the why of the MS in exercise science as a possible option?
Well, like you said, it's just it's a next step. It's something that can prepare you for these advanced fields in exercise science. But sometimes we have students that aren't exactly sure where they want to go. They have an idea. They have these other options. They know a graduate degree is something that needs to get them there. Maybe they're even thinking about something like physician's assistant or physical therapy or OT, and those are ideas that are out there, but they're not really sure. They want to continue to explore their own education and work to set themselves apart. Those options are still out there beyond this, if that's what you end up changing your mind to do. But I think what a lot of people end up doing once they really get a deep dive into the clinical exercise physiology world, if that's really kind of what they're thinking, they really just seem to gravitate even more towards it sometimes. And same thing with strength and conditioning. Once you get that deeper dive, you get more practical experience and get more practicums out there that the master's requires. It's so much hands-on experience, not just here in our labs as much as we can do, but also out there in the field is and that's just really what lets people explore themselves a little bit more beyond the undergrad and really focus in on this field. No general education stuff or anything like that you're fitting in between your core courses. It's all the core, and it's you figuring out where you want to be within this field, and sometimes it's what people need.
And just a kind of a more basic question, it seems like the master's degree for a lot of careers in this field is kind of the minimum expectation, right? Like you kind of have to have the master's to do certain things in this area. So it's kind of like a minimum entrance requirement type of thing. And Dr. Hiley, you made a good point too, where for those of you who are thinking of coming directly from undergrad, you don't have to worry about being overeducated and underprepared. right? Because this is a program that's kind of based on application. It's not just a theory-based program. You're going to be, doing exercise science, not just learning about exercise science. So you're going to walk away with a pretty impressive resume. So I think, again, when you talk about this degree being a good investment, it'd be tough to find a better way to kind of invest in your future career than a master's in exercise science at Bloomsburg.
Correct.
So yeah, those are great points.
So here's our basic overview. Some of you may know this, some of you may not. We're condensing our program to a 36 credit hour program. While we have a 2-year option for our present Bloomsburg University students, if you are a present Bloomsburg student, I would probably discourage you from taking departmental electives until you get to exercise physiology, because we could work with you in your senior year. You could not only take classes within our graduate program that would count towards the 120 to the undergraduate, but also allow you to get a jump start onto the master's program. If you are on this webinar and you are not at Bloomsburg, no stress. We could still work you into a 1.5 or 2-year based program based upon your particular needs. And you're going to see that we tailor a lot of this stuff, and we have to tailor. While the courses may stay the same, the experiences are different. And we'll get to that in a second. Obviously, we've got a thesis track and a non-thesis track. Most students don't really understand what that is. And all a thesis is just a fancy word for a research question and answering a research question. I want to know if a certain type of music will help me lift more weight. So designing a research study to answer that particular question. Most students aren't aware of that. I encourage students to often, challenge themselves, push themselves, and you're always going to be doing some type of research, whether you're working for a hospital or a network system or whatnot, or if you're a strength and conditioning coach, you may be evaluating performance measures on your athletes, and now you're going to have to summarize this information back to a coach. Doesn't mean you have to do a thesis. You could participate along the process and get the same kind of experience. Dr. Hiley, anything else that I'm missing there? I know there are graduate assistantships. Some of our graduate students in our program have assistantships both within the department, as well as, we have a graduate assistant who that is an assistant strength and conditioning coach to our university athletic teams. We've got a graduate assistant in our program who runs a couple of residence halls or works in intramurals. There are graduate assistantships to help support you. Those are a separate process than graduate school, but they can't be given until you've been accepted into a program.
Right. And for those of you who might be wondering, so a grad assistantship it's a part-time job on campus where where you would, again, work anywhere between 10 to 20 hours, and the university would pay for part of your tuition. So that way, like, you're not incurring as much debt as what you might be thinking. So again, this kind of makes your investment in a master's degree that much better. And you walk away with some great resume experiences or experience to add to your resume. But that's something that you would interview for. And also, you're not even limited to graduate assistantships within a department. We have GAs in every department on campus. I mean, they are everywhere. Every year we have grad assistantships go unfilled. So there's quite a few options that are out there. I know Dr. Andriacci hit some of the more common ones that you might see in the exercise science program. Yep, but those are all great points. And the other thing I wanted to mention too is the part about the prospective majors. I would imagine the most common majors are probably exercise science that you see coming in. But can you talk about what it's like for a student from health science or biology or chem, and what their experience might be transitioning into the degree?
Absolutely. The biology students or health science students are very, very apt to become exercise science graduate students. We've had We've had students that have transitioned or graduated with baccalaureates in psychology. Certainly it will help if you have anatomy and physiology underneath your on your transcript. But certainly we will teach you everything else and bring you up to speed with respect to that. For sometimes students get to their baccalaureate degree and they're like, well, I really don't like this degree, or I don't know where I can go with just a straight up health science degree. This is a nice alternative. We are an active, energetic kind of a program that is continually evolving over the past 20, 30, 50 years. The explosion of exercise science has expanded.
Yeah, it seems like the field of sports medicine is something I hear about a lot more than I used to 10, 20 years ago. It seems like that it's an ever expanding field. And I would imagine common on-ramps to the program might be participating in athletics or club and intramural sports, or you're involved in the strength and fitness club in college. And that might be one of the ways that you kind of find out about this as a field. It's unlikely you're taking exercise science classes in high school. So as you're looking at majors in college, this might not have been one you considered. So there are students that kind of find this passion later in their academic career, and we're still able to make that work.
And Tom, I think that's the key, and I think now more than anything, it's passion, whether it's passion for the field. I'm noticing on this slide, there's a picture of a young man over here who graduated with this master's degree. And I know very passionate young man now in the Philadelphia area who's he's coming back to talk to our students in a couple weeks.
Oh, nice.
Passion will take you further, just in general, but passion will take you very far in your life, whatever that career may be.
This is your passion. Absolutely. This is a good place to be. And I'm sorry, Dr. Holly, did you have anything to add?
The only thing I wanted to touch on that I love about this program is that second bullet point, 100% in person. You will get to know us. If you already know us, you will get to know us better. And we become such a cohesive group in this graduate program. It's small, relatively speaking, to a master's program. When we were at Pittsburgh, we were the doctoral students, and the master's program was massive, and the doctoral students were the little pyramid on top. And here it's the master's students that are this experience up top, which on one hand makes for, I think, a much greater undergraduate experience for our students in some ways because of their interaction with that and their involvement in research. But it's the connections that we have with students always build in that graduate program. And it's all in person, it's all hands-on. It's getting you can sneak through an undergraduate program without a ton of experience with the actual hands-on doing of things, because some classes, some students can volunteer and take over, and we naturally let those students gravitate towards doing that. But in the masters, you are going to get all of this hands-on experience. I have seen online exercise science master's programs out there in the world, and it feels like that should be illegal, honestly, because how can you get all of that hands-on experience with the people who've been doing it for 20 years or more and really learn how to use all of the equipment that's out there in the field, all the equipment that each one of our labs is outfitted with, that is top of the line clinical and research equipment that you can become an expert in. The only way you can do that is by being here and by doing it and by being involved with the research and coming to all those classes, because it's a huge part of our coursework, not just extracurricular if you'd like to, it's in the coursework. And that's what made me want to stay in this degree. I still feel like I'm a student in this degree. It's been a little while, but it's been 20 years now, actually, since I came in here as an undergraduate student. And that's what I love about it. I love the hands-on stuff. I love getting sweaty and dirty. And, I know during COVID, that was tough with the metabolic equipment and all of that, and then had to cease. But we're back and we're ready, and we're just excited for, the new research stuff we have going and how that's going to be woven into all of these classes.
This seems like it would be a really tough program, or just a field of study, to translate to an online environment. And when I think about all the labs that you all have and the instrumentation, it's like, I don't know how you would replicate that in a virtual scenario. But that is also a good point, where like, this is the exercise science program this is one of our most well-known programs at Bloomsburg. This is one of our tentpole programs. When you think of Bloomsburg, this is one of the programs you think of. So because of that, this is a program that's been invested in, right? So like, when you look at the labs and the instrumentation, frankly, it's nicer than it is at a lot of other places. So, as a grad student, you're a firsthand beneficiary of that. So you'll be, learning, top of the line, the best of the best out there. So we've invested in this pretty heavily.
Yeah. I mean, would you want your nurse or physician assistant on your bedside to have gotten their degree online? No. Would you want your exercise physiologist next to you in your cardiac rehab facility to have gotten their degree online?
No.
I don't know. As somebody probably heading towards future heart problems, it's not what I'm into.
Yeah.
So what we're looking at here is just a list of presently some of our courses. They're no real order. These are some of the courses that you'll have. Obviously, we have a number of physiology-based courses, and we're considering maybe altering the name of our program. But that's got to be a departmental decision by graduate faculty. But this is a nice little list of the courses that we have and the courses that are embedded into our program. So again, I'd say by looking at this list, what separates your track, meaning the student that's either watching this or actually in the webinar or on the webinar. Hopefully you're listening to this. If not, we'll find you. It's my job as the coordinator to tailor your program to fit your needs. And I'm going to give you an example. If you are a strength and conditioning, have an interest in strength and conditioning, it's my job to tailor those experiences to get you a job in the field of strength and conditioning, whether that's Division 1, 2, or 3. More often than not, by the time you're ready to leave, you would have at least had 2 different divisions of experience. So, obviously, Bloomsburg is a Division 2 program, but we do have Division 3 programs and Division 1 programs. So to get the experience of the cost of what goes towards athletics across the different divisions will be certainly helpful, because the facilities are going to change. What they're putting into that will change as well. So those are kinds of experiences that are really tailored per student. While some of the general classes or core-based courses are the same, the experiences may be different. Dr. Hiley, anything else to add to that?
No, not really.
So what are some of your favorite classes to teach? I guess Dr. Andriacci, Dr. Hiley, if you had to pick one class. One, you only get to teach one for the rest of your career. What's the one you're picking and why?
Class. One class. I mean, I'm going to have to say, I really love physiology, but, exercise, nutrition, and supplements is really hot right now. Super hot. We changed the name of the course to reflect supplements, as many of the people on this webinar are rewatching this or are taking supplements. I would say that those are, that's me, that's what I would say. That's my final answer.
Okay, that's a good one. I like that though. Dr. Hiley.
It's kind of tough for me. I think I'm going to go with an area that I just I nerd out in. One of the things that in physiology and Gosh, it even started like in high school. I had this like nurse slash farmer turned high school teacher who would bring, I mean, like literally in garbage bags, just chunks of cows and goats and pigs and whatever. And I just remember holding this like heavy cow heart. And I've been semi-obsessed with the heart ever since. And so I'm the guy that does the cardiology stuff. I do the cardiac rehab stuff, the electrocardiogram and stress testing. And that's, I love the nerdiness of it.
Mhm.
I love the exercise testing component of it because we spend so much time doing stress tests on one another, hooking each other up to the electrocardiogram and measuring everybody's hearts the best way we can with the technology. But then since we've had so many athletes and coach GAs, we've added some lessons to it where we're learning about the athlete's heart and all the adaptations that athletes have in their hearts that almost mimic some pathologies if you don't know what you're looking at.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's fun. We work in different concepts that link to cardiac patients, but those same technologies, we learn about them there, but then we can learn how stuff can be applied to a healthy individual or an athlete or other areas, because sometimes that's what students want. So I think the other piece that I wanted to say on that was it's an example about how, we have some core content that we need to get across in our different classes for, wherever students might be progressing to in their careers. But depending on how the interests of our student body shifts, we have flexibility to shift some of the fringe coursework, the content within our coursework, to be exactly what our students are interested in, to be what might help them towards their thesis projects, or just something that's new and hot in the literature and a current issue. Even though we have a current issues class, almost all of our classes should be covering important things that are current in the field, and we make sure we're doing that. And that's just one of the courses that's all mine, and I love teaching that sort of stuff. So
That's great. I was wondering where you were going when you were talking about the cow heart. I'm like, where I think where are we going? But all right, I get it, and that makes
the
sense.
old Irish storyteller in me.
You never know with
go
him.
way back, and
Yeah.
so you can rein me in from time to time. If you mute me, I'll see that and I'll understand.
No, that was great. That was very well done.
Sounds like a challenge. Obviously, we have a number of facilities. We've got a beautiful resistance training facility here in Centennial Hall. We've got a number of metabolic parts, treadmills, body composition devices. We actually have a DEXA, dual energy X-ray absorptiometer. We're soon to be in possession of a bod pod. For those of you that know about it, that's awesome. For those of you that don't, it's okay. It's another body composition device.
When they use at the NFL Combine.
Correct.
I was gonna say, I'm like, what's a bod pod? I feel like I've heard that before. That's probably fair.
Yeah, it's Tom, it'd probably, like, once you see it, you're gonna be like, that's awesome.
Yeah, I've seen that on the NFL Network before. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be. We just have to arrange pickup. It's coming from Geisinger, so it's just.
Oh, nice.
But those are our facilities. In fact, yeah, this is a picture of our lab. So, yeah. So this is a really nice photo.
One of the things I'll drop in the chat as soon as we're done with the presentation portion is we did a really nice video tour of all of these. So, and I'll probably follow up with a via email to everyone so you guys can take a look at some of these facilities and see Dr. Andriacci and Dr. Hiley kind of guiding everyone around. But that might give you a better feel for what this is going to be like, because again, this is going to be taught in person. You're going to be spending a lot of time here. This is more or less going to be kind of your home away from home.
Yeah, that's the video that we have on our webpage.
It is, yes. Yep.
Yeah, it's good. It's a really good video. I'm not saying it because we're in it, but I mean,
the acting skills were definitely on display. Let me just say that.
It's so on point.
And this gentleman looks pretty familiar. I feel like
this is where Dr. Hiley's in need of a dire haircut, but that's beside the point. Career options. So again, while I would say, and this is in no particular order, some of our students decide that they want to go into cardiovascular exercise testing, clinical-based exercise physiology. We do have other students who are using this to get into more managerial stuff within corporate fitness or corporate wellness or health promotion. We've got a number of students now working in the insurance industry as wellness coordinators, wellness program associates, et cetera, for both, like major health plan systems like the Geisinger Health Plan, or corporate fitness-based facilities. We do have some students, as Dr. Hiley said earlier, that come in off of their baccalaureate degree, and maybe their grades in certain courses weren't outstanding, to get them into physical therapy school. But what the master's does is says, hey, look, you're committed to your education. You've now got your stuff together. I'm going to go back off to a physical therapy school or occupational therapy school or, physician's assistant program. And then, as we've said, we have some students that go off to terminal degrees, but we have another nice group of people that go into strength and conditioning that want to be a strength coach. And I mean, I think there's a slide coming up here of like, what's the outlook, where are these people going to get? Yeah. So like, I don't want to steal your thunder, but like, we've had, a couple of years ago, we had a master's student who graduated. She had an extra year at the time on our lacrosse team. She's a strength coach at Cornell University. Or we have another, we have students. We just had a young man that just graduated last year. He's at the IMG Academy down in Florida. If you're thinking strength and conditioning, we've got you covered. But you can clearly see on this list here, obviously, Geisinger Medical Center is only within, about a 10-minute drive of Bloomsburg University, but we've placed students up and down the Lehigh Valley for jobs. And, as I was thinking about this list, we do have students that are in the Penn State, Hershey hospital network system that go down there, exercise testing, or even working in research capacities within these organizations. The master's degree opens up, as Mr. Kresh has already said, it opens up the avenue for you to be able to go into various facets within your career. And you're not limited to just this one little. Why? Because your education that you've achieved here at Bloomsburg can offer that so many more avenues, so that you can make a pivot point when you get to a particular stage of your life, or if you happen to move to a tropical location, you'll be able to find a job.
Yeah, and the master's program, it seems it unlocks opportunities that might have been locked prior to doing the master's, right? And I think one of the interesting things is, as you talked about, different research interests and your areas of specialty, those also align with career titles and job areas, right? So, Luke, you talked about cardiac rehabilitation. Well, that's like you're doing research on what a future career might be. So like when I was at Bloomsburg, I was a history major. So when I did my research, it wasn't really I did something that was related to World War II. I wasn't going to go into a career in World War, that's not really how it works. This is one of those fields where the research you're doing directly connects to a career outcome for you. So those dots are incredibly close. So I feel like students probably appreciate it so much more, because like the stuff I'm learning and I'm researching right now, I'm gonna be doing this on a daily basis in my job. So I always thought that was really cool. That's a cool experience that your students will have. And then the doctoral programs too. And I think, Dr. Andriacci, you had mentioned this, you'll have students that go on to PA school or PT school, but you also have students that will continue and complete their doctorate degree or a PhD program. And here's some of the schools that I know some of your alumni have gone on.
And I think, like this list is not to like scare some of you. It's just, really just to reiterate the point that many students didn't know, like I didn't know that I wanted to get my terminal degree till I was here as a master's student. And it was, about after my first semester was really when I had my stuff together and I knew that this is what I wanted to do. And like teach and like do all these awesome things that I saw my mentor, my master's mentor do. But like this list, I mean, there's more colleges that we could put to this list, because when you're ready to go to the next, the next step, like we're diversifying your experiences to get you, when you think about Bloomsburg, like, hey, you're going to go to UMass, you're going to go to Oklahoma, like you're going to go to Penn State or Pitt, like these are big time programs. Like we're from Bloomsburg and we're competing and getting GAs and doing and rocking these other kinds of programs. The experience that we build here, while we're small in size compared to these other places, it's a great experience.
The one thing I'll add to this is that I don't, it's underestimated, it's not well understood how many opportunities there are to do this. I'm not saying it's an easy thing to do. I mean, it's tough getting into these schools. You have to have really proven yourself and done some neat research and even presented and published some of that, which that's what we love to do here. So we will get you that. But you get to these places and coming from, a little town in the middle of nowhere, and all of a sudden you're one of the top students in an entire, school of one of these major universities in the country, if not the world, sharing that experience with people from all over the world, all over the country. The exposure to those environments is incredible in those populations. I mean, I still collaborate and research with a number of my colleagues and people I've met, who are in Brazil and in Europe and in other places. And it's just incredible to make those connections. I went to the University of Pittsburgh not thinking I was going to become a faculty member. I went there for my PhD because I fell in love with research here. And I thought, and I knew that there were so many research positions available at big university hospital systems like UPMC, like Penn, like, other ones linked with major hospital systems that are in every major city has them. Yeah. And every one of those places has clinical and, PhD level researchers doing so much work in these hospitals and in their communities and so on. And that's what I thought I wanted to do. But I learned while I was there, I got experience teaching, and I learned how much research you can do while being a teacher, while being a professor. And also, got teaching experience and found that I love that. And so I went just thinking it was the research realm that I was going to end up in, which there are a lot of opportunities for, even right out of a master's in these places. Even if you're not going there to go for your PhD, there are a lot of research type positions available. Even at Geisinger, those are growing that we're learning. We had people like Jeff Rule and go off and do, work as a master's student doing research with with Nike in Oregon. And that translated ultimately to a research career with Geisinger, coming back to the area. So it's just really neat how many research positions are out there, and the research experience you get here. It's not, if you do a thesis, doesn't necessarily have to be because you want to go get your PhD someday. It could be just because you love research and that's something that you want to do. And you can do that with a master's.
Yep. Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point.
So basically, how do you learn more? Well, the first thing you do is you would apply. And from our department, maybe we could throw, the departmental website into the chat too. We have a new department name. We're Health and Exercise Science. Obviously, if you are a present Bloomsburg University student, the university will pull your transcripts automatically. But if you are at another school, you'll need to send or submit, and this is done all electronically, to Bloomsburg University. Our common prerequisites that we encourage students to have, at least the bare bones, is like an anatomy and physiology 1 and 2, or 2 semesters. It could be a human anatomy and a separate human physiology. But we are ideally linked up to biology, as that was my undergraduate and natural science pre-physical therapy kind of track. Allied health is perfectly acceptable as well to our field. And then obviously the other facet is, I think we ask for a statement of goals, why you want to go to graduate school. And on top of that, it's letters of reference, recommendations from your professors, whether that's you've had Dr. Hiley for a class, or a doctor at your institution who can speak on your behalf, people that can speak to your passion for the field. So we're going to bring that theme back around, and as your aptitude to go into a graduate endeavor. More often than not, I see students that make side steps in their first semester, first academic year, and it happens. Like, that's a part of life. Some people really have their things together, but life sometimes has its way of, giving us twists and turns. And there's no time machine to go back and change those. But I certainly think that, as students move through their program, their undergraduate program, as they get into junior and senior level years, they've now focused down and they've harnessed their energies because they're enjoying those classes. So those faculty members that can speak to you then would be outstanding.
Yeah, but it's a simple online process. The application should not take a ton of time. No GREs or anything like that required. And a lot of it's going to be based on your academic record and kind of how you identify your passion for this field. I think Dr. Andriacci had mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
So that's our contact information. Let me just go ahead and just stop my share. Yeah. Let me drop that in the chat. Let me see here. Sorry. So do we have any questions from anyone in the group?
I don't see any.
I know we have a good amount of students here. Anyone else have any questions about the program, about admission? Anything about coursework or labs? I mean, anything. Again, it's Dr. Hiley and Dr. Andriacci. They're busy gentlemen, so this is a good time to, if you've got any questions, to get any of them answered. And you can feel free to use the chat or the Q&A.
I see something in the Q&A. Is that you? Oh, it's blowing up.
Yeah, there we go. All right. Good question from Connor. Are there GRE requirements? There are none.
No, zero, Connor.
Yes.
Connor, I'm disappointed you didn't ask me that earlier this afternoon.
We don't. Yeah, we're out on the GRE.
No GREs. That's something that we haven't used in years. As a man of science and a man of research, I do not believe in the GRE. And this is where those faculty letters, in my opinion, carry more weight. The GRE can be swayed by emotional influence. So yeah, we got rid of those a long time ago.
Yeah, that's a great question.
What are the best predictor of success?
No, and honestly, it's the 4 years of coursework production. It's how you did while you were in school. Like, that's probably a better predictor, I would imagine. From Mr. Anonymous attendee or Mrs. Anonymous attendee, what are career options with only a bachelor's and master's in exercise science? So I guess basically, what are some of the options that are unlocked by having a master's degree versus only having a bachelor's? It's a good question.
Okay, so Mr. Anonymous or Miss Anonymous, I guess protect the anonymous. So if you want to go into clinical exercise testing, or like cardiovascular rehabilitation in hospitals, you need to have a master's.
Yeah.
so that's like right there. If you want to be a strength and conditioning coach at a Division I or II program, I'm not sure about, I'm almost going to say Division III, you need to have a master's.
Yeah.
Okay. And then not only the master's degree, but the appropriate certification, like the National Strength and Conditioning Association. If you are, if you want to, work in personal training, you can do that with a bachelor's degree. You can do that with a bachelor's degree. Like if you want to go into, I know, I've gotten a bunch of emails from research staff at a major medical system, Geisinger, asking for people to do some per diem stuff. I've subsequently punted that to Dr. Hiley, and he made an announcement in his class, like per diem, like research stuff are things that students could do to make some good coin. And without, and these people are still, they haven't graduated yet. They're still here. But if you want to work in a hospital system, you're probably looking at a master's degree. And whether that's, like you could be with a bachelor's degree, Geisinger does hire like research like a first level, like a coordinator position. They call them research coordinators. And there are tiers. Obviously, the higher the tier, the greater the pay. But we've had students place, at the entry level, get their master's and then move up the food chain. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah. That makes perfect sense. And so you mentioned something, Dr. Andriachi, about the certifications. Do you have students who are either enrolled in the grad program or after completing the grad program that will go out and then get these additional certifications? Is that something?
Yeah. So like if you're thinking like, I'm going to be a certified, like I'm going to go into strength and conditioning, first off, you can't sit for the CSCS, which is the National Strength and Conditioning Association's certified strength and conditioning specialist. You can't sit for that until you have your bachelor's degree. Like let's say you graduate in May, you couldn't sit until you have the proof that says that the degree has been confirmed. Does this make sense?
It does,
so what many of our graduate students do is they're coming off the heels of their undergraduate, maybe experience in strength and conditioning at whatever level. And maybe before they graduate, they've sat for that exam.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense? If you were thinking exercise testing, cardiovascular, whatever, you need to accumulate 600 hours, just a master's degree, 600 hours before you can sit for the American College of Sports Medicine's clinical exercise physiology. That's just the field, like, I'm sure Dr. Hiley would, it comes with the experience. It's the exposure, the repetitiveness. Now, the great thing is we can use some of those hours from your undergraduate and your master's degree to build towards that. But many hospital network systems, depending upon the qualified candidate, they'll hire someone and then that's in their onboarding packet or their contract that says that they will sit for the exam by their eval time after 1 year of hire.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's helpful. So just for both of you, if you were not in the faculty ranks, right? If you didn't go on to become a professor, what career would you have gone into? Like, what do you have a job title in mind or a career field? Like, if you were not doing your dream job, which as we all know is probably being a professor right now, right at Bloomsburg, what do you think you would have done after completing your master's or your doctorate degrees to kind of give people a general idea of like some of the additional career options out there?
Now?
Yeah.
When I was coming out of like,
let's say now.
Take a
you
little
were
trip
gonna-
back in time, put
Yeah.
yourself in young Joey's shoes.
I've never
And where are
shown,
you going?
like I'm looking at some of this, some people that are presently on this, list are students of mine. And normally, like, I always give them a little, send off at the end of the semester. But, if I could look back, like when I graduated with my undergrad, my hair was like 2 feet long. Like I had no cares in the world. Like I worked at a college bar. It was just a very unique time of my life. I was like, I was basically a biology major. And, I had, it's kind of like a crazy path that, I got into, doing some heart rates and blood pressures on, people. And my undergraduate advisor was like, I don't know what he saw in me. Like, I still like, hey man, thanks, for the opportunity.
Like the hair. He's like, that's a good head of hair.
Well, I mean, like back then, like everyone had like that was back when the man bun was like, it was like, but I don't know, like if I weren't doing this, like, I took the MCATs, I was physical therapy. I took all the courses for physical therapy, I got accepted to medical school, but I didn't want to go to, like, I didn't have the money to go to the Caribbean, like, because I had a really fun time. And it took me a while to finish my undergraduate degree, but we all make choices. Like, hey, now, and again, like maybe I was a little bit more immature then, who knows, but like, I don't know what like, if it was now,
Yeah.
Like, I'd love to be a stay-at-home dad. I say that, you know what I mean? Like,
I was thinking you were going to say something in the field of exercise science, but that is cool too. I like.
well,
that.
I mean, like, I think, I don't know. I mean, being a parent's the hardest job in my life, but I don't know what I'd be doing. I can't envision myself doing anything other than this.
That's probably a great answer for a faculty member, speaking with prospective students, that basically like there's nowhere else in the world you would rather be than doing what you're doing right now.
I mean, I think I would have done research, if my life, when I came out of, much like Dr. Hiley, the carrot of research, but I knew that, this, where we are at Bloomsburg, I can teach, I can do the research that I want to do. If there's a student out there that you're like, oh, this is I think some of these students were, we have simple questions. We're doing these research projects where students are getting a great experience. And like that's the awesome thing about this, like getting kids involved, learning how to do this stuff. Like that's the rewarding component.
No, that's a great answer.
Okay, Dr. Hiley, I felt like you, like, to make a long story short.
Yeah.
He's on your corner, I mean,
Yeah.
that's your thing.
Yep. If I wouldn't go back like too far, as far as like what I was thinking when I was coming into Bloomsburg and when I was going into my master's, but when I was at Pitt and we would do these year-long exercise programs in kids with cystic fibrosis, and we would see them, every couple of months. They'd be in our lab for a couple of hours. They would do, all their health-related visits. They do various exercise tests, different interviews and questionnaires. And then as part of my assistantship, one of my duties with this research project was to actually visit all of these patients at their homes. And I would go and deliver an exercise bike to them and put it together and teach them how to use it. And I got to know those families and these kids really well. And part of the program was talking with them every week about their program, about how the exercise was going, giving them motivation and all of that. And that at this part of Children's Hospital, and I miss that, like that way to provide healthcare that they did there, using research and the funding they were able to get. They got I mean, somewhere in the realm of $2 to $3 million for this project.
Wow.
And they would gift these bikes to people. It paid for all of their medical care during this time.
Yeah.
And I would visit families that, obviously were, struggling to make it, so that this level of care would have been impossible.
Yeah.
And it gave them that experience, but also some of the families I visited were Amish families, like out in the boonies, like nearly Ohio, that huge Amish alcove out there. And I'm here putting together these fancy Dan brand new electric exercise bikes in these dirt basements on these farms in northwestern Pennsylvania, and teaching these families how to operate it, because they would have like one outlet because they needed it for the special vest the kids would wear that would help them get the mucus out, like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I really toyed around the idea. Like, I'd studied for the MCATs, and I was thinking, maybe I really need to be in this field. And I still think about that sometimes. And
yeah,
me and Joe have talked recently about doing more research with kids in the community.
Yeah.
And, we were bringing those ideas and putting them to paper again, finally. And, we're excited about where that goes. But that's the sort of thing that I really missed about that, and a direction I was going. But it's a neat thing that's out there for people who are interested in it.
Yeah. It just shows the diversity of the field and everything you can do with the degree. Yeah. See, I was wondering if it'd be like, I would see like strength and fitness coaches, and because I'm sports fan, you look at the sidelines and we see those guys. I always thought that would have been a really cool job too.
Oh yeah.
But are there any other questions from the group? And if there's not, that's fine. Dr. Andriacci, Dr. Holly, and I will hang out here in the room in case there's anyone who wants to ask some questions. So again, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. We really do appreciate it. We look forward to hearing from everyone. We invite everybody to apply, assuming that you're a senior right now. And like I said, don't hesitate to call us, email us, stop in to see us. We're always happy to help in any way that we can. So thank you everybody, and have a great night.